Hi there, Frank here for premium members for the trading day of October the 6th, 2025, a Monday. On the indexes, we have completed measured moves. I have deleted some of the markups from past days just to get a clean idea, but this is what we were working with. So if you were long on the indexes, just remember that we did hit the target, and this is the time to, plus it was a Friday, a little bit of sell-off, and going back to safety before the weekend is quite normal. So stay bullish on the indexes, but always cover your bags and wait for clear setups. Okay, also, just as a general rule, always be on the lookout for a top tail, an exhaustion candle on the daily chart on any of the indexes, which might mean an indication of this trend fading away or at least losing strength. Okay, now let's just go one by one. Maybe we can learn something here. So we have bull flags on the daily chart, and we almost hit 1R on the NQ, 0.8. You get a red candle here at 0.8, just get out. I wouldn't mess with it. Just take the money and look elsewhere. That's okay. Not every trade will always go to 1R. And also, remember, in this particular case, I put my stop outside this bottom tail, but as we know from our methodology, often the best thing is to put 1 or 2 ticks inside just to avoid slippage if we get stopped out. So if you put it that way, it would have been a 1R right on the spot, you see? Now, this is not an accident. This is just how markets and the crowd behaves. A volatility move often produces a similar move. Again, a second move which is similar in size to the first one. But this is in hindsight, so I don't want to sound too smart here. This is what it was, 0.8. Done with it. Let's move on. YM also hit 1R and more. Here we go. The target is hit. That was the previous pivot. Remember one important rule, and this is always in previous videos and also in the documentation, that when we take a long trade, something like this, you see the 1R is either outside the previous pivot or perhaps sometimes inside the previous pivot. If the pivot is inside the 1R, you take profits at the previous pivot. That's your target. So in either case, we hit the target conveniently. So let's move on to RTY, which also hit the target on the 4-hour chart on Friday. Beautiful. Same as the YM. And there could be a bit more, maybe 50 points more, back to 25.50. Look at the weekly chart. We have an obvious target ahead of us still. If you like this type of content, I encourage you to check out our premium membership, especially the annual premium membership, which includes all our services as well as all our software. If you just want to purchase our software, you can do so in the shop as well. In either case, we hope to have you on board soon as we build our community of traders dedicated to trading excellence. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon. Okay, let's move on to currencies, on which we said last week that things are evolving in our favor and we're on the lookout for long trades. That's what we said. And now those long trades are starting to appear. Look at this. This is a pretty messy situation here on the 4-hour chart. But if you look at the daily, everything starts to make sense. You see, moving out, bird's eye view often produces clarity. And this is just a complex bull flag right now on the daily. Now, I'm not saying this is the best setup because it's kind of sideways. It may or may not work, but perhaps a breakout from this, which is marked up here on the 4-hour chart, pursuing a breakout to the upside might make sense based on that bottom tail. Based on the first strong move, look at this, just green, like 10, almost 6 to 8 green candles in a row. The context here is the weakening dollar, the weakening USD. That's the environment we're operating in. This could also start to move to the upside. Always insist on a trigger. This is the Australian dollar, similar to the 6E, by the way. And the other good one was the Japanese yen. which gave us one or two good bull flags in the past 2-3 days. And now here is another one in the works. Look at this. I understand that the daily is still in the middle, but often this is how things start to get going. So if you want, keep an eye on this Japanese long trade here, something like this. Beautiful. Also, let's see. I'm also looking at the Swiss franc. I mentioned that about a week ago. Based on these candles, I'm assuming that this 127-ish area might be hit. Look at the daily chart. As always, insist on a trigger on your time frame. Now, if you trade the daily, the trigger would be here. Bitcoin, a success story. We said 125. It is 125. No magic here. It is a previous pivot on the daily, 1, 2, 3. So we just back where we were twice before, just about. Let's see. Let's move on to precious metals. All right. So this is a pretty straightforward story. Gold is expected to hit 4,000. Gold likes round numbers, and 4,000 is too close here not to be hit. I'm not saying it will be a straight line. I'm not saying anything is easy in trading, but if you trade this breakout here, most likely you will hit 4,000 one way or the other. Also, if you're new to our methodology, make sure you understand what is a slide along the counter. A slide is a lack of pullbacks, just sliding up or down, the other way around. In this case, it's going up along the counter. This is like a short circuit. No pullbacks. A lack of pullbacks means a relentless but low volatility slide along the counter. It will end one way or the other, usually abruptly, but until then, it's one of the best setups we can, or the best environment to trade that we can think of. And if you look at smaller charts like the 4-hour, you can always find, or most of the time, you can find a good spot to enter the party. Okay, and SI, we're eyeing 50. That's what I don't think it will stop there, by the way, but I'm planning to remove 1/3 or 2/3 of our positions on the SI at 50 just because it's a psychological barrier. But this is becoming exponential, and it's quite unlikely that it will stop at 50. It could even go to 75, or who knows. I'm not making predictions. I'm just trading it. We're also looking at two other precious metals, palladium and platinum. As you know, both look pretty good, and they might offer good opportunities. Let's start with palladium. Palladium looks fantastic on the weekly chart with lots of room to go, 1,600, 2,000 obvious levels. And this is a bull flag. We have the algorithmic signal. This is how we can make money. This is important to understand that we have to take these clues and this information seriously. If you have limited resources, this is probably not the first choice. And also palladium, you can trade it with ETFs, PALL, so with relatively small risk. And platinum is the other one, which is more extended on the weekly. It doesn't have that big room, but look at this. It is technically already triggered to the long side. We have the bottom tail. Everything points towards a 1R, at least a 1,700. And the weekly is just unstoppable. We're starting to look at HG, copper. Copper has moved. Look at this. The daily chart was kind of broken, but now I was expecting a bull flag here. We didn't get it. You see, the market is so impatient, it just never gave us a bull flag from this structure. We got a little one on the 4-hour chart, but we haven't missed anything yet. When it starts to get to 50, and this is a 50%, you see, and before you think, if you're new to this, before you think I'm using Fibonacci, no. This is a 50% level, just to give us an idea where halfway of the journey might be. And 50% is often a level that roughly indicates some kind of important area. Back to the point, when it gets to 50, I will again be expecting a bull flag, and perhaps that bull flag will be one that we can start to trade. One way or the other, I expect this market to head back to 6. You see where it came from. That's how usually things work out. Okay, and let's see. One more note. ZB, nothing to do, but we are just noting and noticing and making a note of the fact that bullish setups are forming on ZB, which is the treasuries, which will be the safe haven apart from gold and silver and Swiss franc probably when things get rough on the equities, which they will one way or the other sooner or later. Okay, so I hope this helps. Again, you can trade these setups in an algorithmic way with either BT or ProSTR. So make sure you understand how you can use those two tools. Think of it like a car. One is a stick shift, the other one is an automated. That's BT probably would be the more automated, and ProSTR is the stick shift. Same thing, same car, but it works a little bit differently and you can use it in a different way to your advantage. But the idea is, unless you're a 24/7 algorithmic trader, then you don't have to listen to me, because then you just switch it on like Jim Simons and you take your trades. That's fine too. We do have an edge that way. But what I have found is that by adding a discretionary thinking, which we call a human-assisted algorithmic trading method, we can achieve better results. Okay, so this could go on. I'll stop right here. That's enough for a Sunday, a little longer. Think about these things. Get ready for next week. The markets are excellent, excellent opportunities, and we have good chance here to finish the year with good results. So we'll be back in the morning, and until then, mindful trading.